Alright, sorry this review is so late. I had a busy weekend, you know how it is, especially around Christmas. But now here we are, let's do this. Better late than never, right? Rebel Moon, Part 1, A Child of Fire. So Rebel Moon is the new sci-fi epic from director Zack Snyder, and yeah, you probably heard the story behind this by now. This was originally pitched to Lucasfilm by him as like a dark and gritty take on a Star Wars story. They rejected him, so Netflix was like, we'll take it, and here we are. So yeah, this is Zack Snyder's take on Star Wars, essentially. This is Zack Snyder does Star Wars. Sounds like a pretty good mix to me, because I like Star Wars, and I like Zack Snyder. So Rebel Moon follows that formula. It takes place in a galaxy far, far away. We have an evil empire who worships the slain king. They want to take over the galaxy, but there are those out there who wish to rebel. Our main character, Cora, played by Sofia Boutella, she's finally had enough of this, so she's gonna go out there and rally up a team and make a stand of hope against the empire. And viva la revolution! And yeah, I heard this movie got a lot of bad reviews due to either its pacing or lack of characterization of the supporting characters. I don't know, I thought this movie was actually pretty cool. I mean, it definitely has a couple of flaws, which I imagine will be fixed in the director's cut, but I found myself mostly enjoying this version. Then again, this might end up being like Justice League, where the first version we get, I'm like, okay, I enjoy this. And then the director's cut comes out and I'm like, how did I ever think the original version was okay? Who knows? But alright, Sofia Boutella as Cora. Yeah, her name's Cora, which makes her the Avatar. Nah, I think she's a total badass in this movie, dude. You end up learning her motivation for why she wants to fight this empire, and at least I could totally get behind that. She is more badass than Luke Skywalker, in the first Star Wars movie anyway. And her acting is really good. I've been waiting for Sofia Boutella to show us what she can do in a leading role, because I think this is the first time I've seen that. And yeah, she can bring it. All sorts of props to Sofia Boutella. Dude, I can't believe she graduated from Berklee College of Music. That's where I went. That's awesome. But yeah, as for the supporting characters, it is true. They don't get nearly as much depth as Sofia Boutella's character does. You have this guy, Gunnar. He's kind of the love interest, but he's not that interesting of a character. Really, my takeaway from him was that he only knows how to give one look on his face. And it's that expression, that one of far-off wonder and concern. That is his vibe, his tone, his everything. Charlie Hunnam's in the movie. He's part of the crew. And I like him because Charlie Hunnam's a really charismatic actor, although his Scottish accent took some getting used to, and I never really did. And I think it's because he talks with the same cadence in every sentence he says. There was no dynamic range to his dialogue. You know what I'm trying to say? He always talked like this, and this is what each of his sentences sound like, because this is how Scottish people talk, apparently.
I could help you. For a small fee, obviously.
And he's got no dynamic range other than that. Yeah, dynamic range, up and down. He didn't have that in this movie. It almost sounded kind of unnatural. That's just something my ears noticed. But Ray Fisher is also part of the crew. He's a badass. You can't go wrong with Ray Fisher. He's like the hardcore rebel who actually quite a few members of the crew are hardcore. But Ray Fisher did stand out to me. Probably because he was cyborg, yeah. But what can I say? He was also a badass in this movie. And the main villain in this movie, this Admiral Atticus Noble, played by the first Dario Naharis, this guy is a dick. Oh my god. We've seen this actor play villains before, and he's just really good at it. In the first Deadpool movie, for example, he's fantastic. There are things he does in this movie as a villain. You're just like, holy shit. How do you sleep at night? Yeah, he's an asshole. He deserves what's coming to him. Gotta give props to that as well. Now, the movie, okay, again, it is based on Star Wars, so a lot of times when you see things in this film that are straight up derivative of Star Wars, you kind of, at least I gave it a pass, because that is what it was originally intended to be. That's the story behind it. So I'm like, okay, again, this is Zack Snyder does Star Wars. And there's something about Zack Snyder's specific filmmaking style that I just really like. His sort of melancholy and overdramatic tone just works for me. A lot of times his movies act like they're the most important and dramatic things you will ever see on a screen. Really fatalistic. I mean, the movie starts off with the opening logos, and you have that dramatic choir in the background. Just set the tone immediately. You're like, this is gonna be some serious shit. Yeah, like 88 miles per hour serious shit. Let's buckle in. And the visual effects, oh my, dude, they bummed me out in the fact that I couldn't see this in an IMAX movie theater. Because they are certainly IMAX worthy. The visual effects in this movie I thought were awesome. You have these gorgeous sci-fi planet backdrops and strange creatures that are reminiscent of creatures we have on our world. Big battle sequences that are beautifully choreographed. There were a couple of points where I was like, this is 300 in space. And that sounds like a big fat win to me. In fact, this pretty much is 300 in space. The little rebellion against the big evil oncoming force. Yeah. And all the awesome Zack Snyder visual flair that implies. The slow-mo included. Oh yeah. I know I've been back and forth about slow-mo. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on my mood. And in this movie, that also applies. There were some points where I was like, that slow-mo was really well done, really well thought out. Other times I was like, why was that of all shots slow motion? One thing I like is that sometimes a shot doesn't focus on the main thing in play. What I mean, like, example, something really bad's going down and Korra shows up to take care of business, but when she first arrives, the main shot is not on her. She's in the background out of focus. The foreground is like some bucket on the ground. It was an artistic, stylistic choice that I assume Zack Snyder made, but I like it because it's like the movie has faith in us. We know that Korra just showed up to kick ass. We don't have to see it. It can just be implied. We can figure it out. Or at least that's how my brain processes shots like that. And that's a very specifically Zack Snyder thing. I think it's pretty cool. Now, yes, it is true that a lot of the supporting characters in the crew don't get a lot of depth, but I don't know why, but I just didn't see that as a problem. Cause Korra is the one that gets all the depth. So you're really only attached to her emotionally, but I definitely got that emotional attachment to her. Everyone else, I mean, I'm a decent human being, so I would be sad if he died, sure, but it wouldn't impact me as much as if Korra died, you know? That's all I'm saying. And besides, when it comes to their action scenes, they all showcase some badassness. You have this character Nemesis who has pretty much lightsaber swords. She's awesome. The only one I didn't really get a whole lot out of was Djimon Hounsou's character, General Titus. I don't think he really showcased a lot of action in this movie. He did a good job of just standing there and talking though, and giving dramatic looks. But yeah, Nemesis is awesome. There's this other dude who's a prince. He's a badass. So I ended up liking this crew for the most part. I will admit some of the writing was a bit cheesy at times, but you know, that just comes with the territory of this movie. It's a Zack Snyder sci-fi epic. Sometimes the dialogue's gonna be a bit over dramatic. So it's not that big of a gripe, it's just, again, something I noticed. And Tom Holkenborg's score is all sorts of awesome. I touched on it a little bit already. That dramatic choir, yeah, they're what represents the evil empire. Holy shit, yeah, like when the empire shows up, the choir that accompanies them pretty much lets you know that the end times are here. For you and your family and your community, you're all just fucked. Sorry, Corey Stoll, he's in this movie too. But yeah, it's some good shit. In the end, I enjoyed Rebel Moon Part 1. Again, I'm sure the director's cut is gonna be a lot better and probably give some more emotional depth to the supporting characters, like Zack Snyder's Justice League does, but I don't completely hate this version. I love Sofia Boutella's character Korra. She's a badass, the action scenes are awesome, the visual effects are awesome, the score is awesome, just some of the writing is a bit cheesy, I can't deny that, and I will admit that the supporting characters could have used more depth, so I can be even more emotionally attached to them, but other than that, I thought this movie was pretty solid, and I can't wait for Part 2, The Scargiver. Ugh, you like this movie? Cringe. Embrace it, baby. So, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Have you watched it yet? What are your thoughts on it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!